Welcome to Brandon episode 311. No, we're not fingering anybody. It is your hosts, Troy, here with me, Jason.
And I should say you should speak for yourself on that, Troy.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Don't assume who I am or am not fingering at any given moment.
It's usually yourself. That's right. Today, this week, it is the first episode that we gave up on you dumb fucks who never came and watched us on YouTube. We are not live, but most of you didn't watch us live or listen to us live anyways, so it doesn't fucking matter.
So, full disclosure, we are recording this on Wednesday, so if any news breaks on Thursday, we won't be fucking talking about it.
That's right, that's right. Well, that's a perfect segue into not only the perfect 10, but also our first topic. Speaking of broken condoms, The Miz used his awesome dick to chuck a baby into Maurice.
You know, you gotta give me some sort of an intro to the perfect 10, like an area to put the drop in there. Jesus.
There.
I sort of feel like you just like making the editing process more difficult for me every week, Troy.
I would rather you just not edit to the show at all, but that's me. So, yeah.
Oh, after years of somebody putting no effort into editing the show, I'm actually trying. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, let's get a clean out point on that. Let's talk about the perfect 10. Perfect 10. Perfect 10. There, you can just edit out that and just put the dropping right there. All right, our first topic. Speaking of things that are broken, The Miz uses awesome dick to chuck a baby into Maurice. That's right. Because it's wrestling, and because these are wrestling personalities, they decided to announce their pregnancy via Monday Night Raw. And via Miz TV segment. I, for one, actually enjoyed it. There was a little bit of real emotion, then it was quickly replaced as soon as the Miz started talking about wrestling again after it. And then, of course, we had Enzo Amore come out. And the Miz has continued to maybe, be a little bit more with his realism again, bringing up the fact that Enzo was kicked off a bus and the fact that nobody likes him. But great on Enzo to remind everyone the same shit happened to The Miz. Mm-hmm. So how did you feel about this segment?
Well, okay, so there's two ways to look at this. First off, congratulations to The Miz and Maurice, obviously. But how do you do that announcement and then attempt to be the heel? Yeah. And the entire crowd is cheering for you and celebrating with you. You're playing it off as a face event, obviously. Mm-hmm. Enzo, the face, comes out and interrupts the moment.
Yeah.
And then proceeds to accuse your wife of being a whore and the child of not being yours. That's your face right there.
Yep.
The other problem I had with it is that it got look. I'm all for when they get break down the fourth wall, get inside the locker room, play to the dirt sheets a little bit. Problem is, probably 70% of your fan base has no fucking idea what you're talking about when you talk about Enzo getting kicked out and having heat in the back, and that came into play later with Cena and Reigns, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But it just seemed like they alienated a lot of their audience. Didn't give them a clear idea of who was the face, who was the heel. The whole thing just kind of struck me as really fucking weird.
Mm-hmm. There's minor spoilers here for Game of Thrones.
I don't watch it, so it ain't gonna spoil me.
There's a moment in Game of Thrones this past season, about 3 or 4 episodes in, where a character that we haven't seen for a couple of years returned, and the last time we saw him, he was rowing a boat away from one of the big cities. So there was a joke on the internet that he's still rowing to this day. And so when his character shows back up again, they have another character say, "I would have thought you were still rowing." And the internet's going, they referenced a joke we make. But the rest of the audience is just like, well, that's an odd statement to make.
Right.
That's what this felt like, where you're kind of nudging your fan base a little bit. But the problem is that the internet fan base for wrestling fans doesn't like that kind of stuff. It feels a little patronizing. It feels a little bit like, okay, yeah, you just kind of threw that in for us. We get it. Ha ha ha. We're funny.
Yeah, and there's been a history in television of things like that. People who work on shows kind of posting on message boards and taking ideas from there and kind of working them into the show as a subtle nod to their most loyal of fans, those who go on the internet and talk about them and slander them anonymously. But it also has to, when you're talking about character development, this was essentially like if Bruce Willis stops in the middle of being John McClane in Die Hard and looks at Hans Gruber and goes, "By the way, motherfucker, I know you stole the fruit out of my fucking trailer." And then goes right back to, like, it just doesn't make sense. You're a character in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You're not Enzo Amore. Well, I guess Enzo is Enzo, and that's sort of the problem. But you're not playing the character in that moment, and you're dipping in and out, and it affects the realism, and it makes it hard for the casual fan to follow. I followed it fine. You followed it fine. Probably anybody fucking listening to this podcast followed it fine. But from a business perspective and reaching those fans who don't follow you on the internet, who don't read the dirt sheets, they were probably just fucking lost.
Yeah. It's a half step away from Sheamus and Cesaro. But Sheamus and Cesaro, let's say that they were facing off against the New Day. And Sheamus is going on about how they're the bar and everything like that. And then they go, but I was really happy that you let me on your show Up, Up, Down, Down.
Yeah.
Like, that it doesn't work.
Right.
And yeah, for us, it was an entertaining moment. But yeah, like you said, for the majority of your audience that are not dirt sheet readers or are not, on Reddit and things like that, they're just going, wait, why is The Miz talking about Enzo getting kicked off a tour bus? Like, because obviously that tour bus must have all the faces in it, right? It definitely could not have any of the bad guys driving with the good guys. That would be weird. And what's this weird picture of Kevin Owens with Enzo and Big Cass when Enzo got knocked out? That's weird. Is he going there to assault them? Somebody should stop that guy because Enzo's already hurt. You can't let him hurt that guy even more. Yeah, that's like the old 80s stuff that used to happen where they had to seriously keep bad guys away from good guys.
Look, I don't mind it on people's social media, on their private accounts. I don't mind if fucking, Ben Affleck posts a photo of him and his kid. It doesn't, he doesn't have to be Batman 24/7 in his private life. But when you're playing Batman in a Batman movie, fucking be Batman, Right. Nobody wants to see Affleck at that point.
Yeah, it would be like Rick Grimes just suddenly talking with a British accent. You'd be like, what's going on? Why is he talking with his normal accent?
Exactly.
No, he's a character right now.
Yeah, you can watch him on Talking Dead, and he'll have his accent, and that's fine, because that's a different type of interaction.
That's a non-kayfabe show.
Right. I can watch Total Divas and see Lana without her accent and be okay with it, because I understand it's a different presentation.
Not only that, there's not that much crossover audience on Total Divas as WWE is.
And speaking of Lana, if you're interested, I would go search on the internet for pictures posted on Twitter today of Rusev milking a cow, because you might see a Lana nip slip that she posted herself on Twitter.
I have seen this woman's vagina and asshole on the internet, and you're getting excited about a nip slip?
I'm just saying.
She literally has taken a ton of topless pictures in the past.
Oh, sure. Did she take asshole pictures? I didn't know about that.
I mean, it wasn't...
Aside from her wedding photos, but...
I wouldn't say, it wasn't like spread brown eye, but there was definitely a hint of it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just find this particularly charming because she posted it herself.
Yeah. There was a whiff of it.
It was a fragrant aroma.
There you go. All right. So, speaking of fragrant aromas...
hold on one second. Hold on.
You just ruined a great segue.
Well, you can get back to it. Nobody heard it. I only know it because it's on the list. But you did bring up an interesting point in vis-a-vis Enzo Amore, and it does seem to me that most of these issues with Enzo that we've heard about seem to have started after Kevin Owens got moved to SmackDown,
Yeah.
Which sort of makes me wonder on the timeline if maybe Kevin Owens, we always thought it was kind of Cass keeping Enzo in line. Maybe it was actually Owens that was kind of telling him, hey, dude, shut the fuck up. And that would make sense because obviously Owens has years of experience on the indies and much more of an idea of how to conduct himself in the locker room.
Mm-hmm. And I would say you could look at Sami Zayn that same way. When the two of them were sort of kept apart when, Owens was still going down to NXT or when Sammy was up on the main roster and Owens was still on NXT, that's when we kind of started to hear about some of the Sami Zayn craziness. And then once Owens came back up, it was like, okay, well, now we're not really hearing about it as much. So I wouldn't be surprised that, if Owens was the one kind of keeping these guys in line, and I would believe it. He seems like the kind of guy who's a consummate professional and will have no problem pulling aside a guy and be like, what are you fucking doing, dude?
Right.
So, and that's kind of what the locker rooms have been missing, is guys like that, because we used to have, obviously, Undertaker was a big time guy on pulling people aside and, telling them knock the fucking shit off. And, Cena's not there enough to do it. When Cena is there, people are probably on better behavior. Mm-hmm. But when he's not, who else do you have really? I mean, now that he's even off of SmackDown now, but over on Raw, people were saying that, it was the Shield that have kind of been doing it, but the Shield are pretty young, and I think that they have a hard time going up to a guy like Big Show and being able to tell him, hey, don't do that or do this kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, Big Show would be that guy. I think Mark Henry's still around a little bit.
Mark Henry's still alive somewhere.
He'd be one of those guys. Goldust, I would think, would be one of those guys.
Yeah, I can see that. But, look at SmackDown. They don't have as much tenured staff on them. I mean, even the older guys like AJ Styles and Kevin Owens have only been in WWE for a year or two.
Yeah, but it's not really a WWE thing. It's more of a conducting yourself in a locker room kind of vibe. But yeah, I would venture to guess that AJ is probably sort of the leader on SmackDown. That's just throwing stuff against the wall, but that would seem to me to be the most obvious locker room guy. But it will probably be a very short period of time before we start seeing the rumors or the announcement of the future endeavoring of Enzo Amore. But more on that in the future. We're done talking about people who might be going, because Troy, go ahead.
Let's talk about people who are coming, and I don't mean just me. Asuka was announced that she is coming on my face all over Raw. And we had kind of talked about this before on what show we wanted to see her on. This is a tough one because I think she could do great on both shows, but I think when you look at Raw, there's not as much depth there because you've got the top people, then you've got Alicia Fox is still employed, and obviously they do not see enough of Emma to really do anything with her. Dana Brooke is kind of forgotten there. And you look over at SmackDown, they try to use a lot of different people. I mean, Becky Lynch is not being used because they're using their shit talent. But yeah, it's personally, I think that it depends on what you're going to do with Asuka. Because if you're going to have her come up as a face, there's a lack of a big face over on SmackDown. Whereas on Raw, obviously you've got Sasha, who's the huge face.
Naomi has a pretty big face.
That's only because she's, got a huge head. I don't know. It's one of those situations where, okay, we know Asuka's coming to the main roster now, so who's getting their spot taken away? Because there's not going to be enough room for women.
Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen when Asuka comes up to the main roster, okay?
I'm going to get an erection.
They're going to tout Asuka's undefeated streak in NXT, that this woman hasn't lost a match since she signed with the company, 500 whatever days as champion, and in the first pay-per-view, probably a shitbag No Mercy pay-per-view or something like that, she will lose inexplicably to Emma. That's pretty much what will happen because that's the formula we've seen. Any woman that's come up from NXT that's been super over or that's had nuclear heat, they've completely wasted it. See Sasha. I mean, for those of you who don't remember, entire fucking arenas were chanting, "We want Sasha," when she came up, and their response was, "Let's keep her off TV and make them want her more."
Mm-hmm.
Well, fucking geniuses, people got sick of it. This woman is now getting fucking booed, and oh, by the way, she's not trying to be a heel. No, they're booing her because they fucking are over her, because you didn't do anything with her. You presented her as a joke, as somebody who couldn't win the big match, and that's how they perceive her now. So you could fix it with a little bit of work, but you're not willing to put that work in, and so fuck it. She's just screwed. And we saw it with Bayley. Bayley, again, great character down in NXT. Required just a little bit of careful handling, maybe a little bit of vignettes, maybe a little bit of work with creative. But she could have been a John Cena type face on the WWE roster in terms of selling merch, being that gateway to bringing little girls in to being fans of the product. And instead, they took what could have been her crowning moment, defeating Charlotte for the title at WrestleMania, ending Charlotte's pay-per-view streak, and moved it up to a shitty pay-per-view before WrestleMania, and then just had her drop the title for no fucking reason in her hometown. Everything they've done with every NXT woman that's come up lately has been fucking wrong. Nia Jax is getting a push when this woman can't even execute a fucking backbreaker without injuring somebody. Emma is getting characters pulled away from her and changed on the fly. Dana Brooke isn't being used. And no, Dana's not great, but you called her up, so fucking use her, because she's not going to get any better sitting in the back in the makeup chair.
Right.
Send them down or use them. But don't fucking bring these girls up to sit there and do nothing, because you know what? Then when you need them, they're not going to be fucking ready.
We have a serious issue with the women on both rosters, because Alexa is the most over woman, and she's supposed to be a heel. And Alexa really has succeeded despite her booking and despite what the character that they tried to kind of fit her into. She carved her own way out. That's how good of a talent she is. But I can see them instantly ruin her in a drop of a hat. Yes, you said it yourself. Look at Nia. Nia, yes, is she's a bigger gal, which I'm all for. I'm for us having different looking women and stuff like that. She's been booked as a monster, but then she's also been booked to tap out when she should be a monster. And then you look over on SmackDown and you have the fucking kitty cat fart face as your champion. You've got Naomi, who was over because of her dance in the beginning. And then, Carmella is your Money in the Bank holder, while Charlotte is relegated to B Squad, and Becky Lynch can't even get booked on the show. Okay. And so, yeah, you look at a girl like Asuka, who, because English isn't her first language, has some issues cutting promos, obviously, because, she has a very thick accent to her, and she's not very fluent in English. So instantly you're taking that away from her, where she's not going to be able to talk as much. So you're thinking, okay, well, they'll just Shinsuke her. Well, the shine has kind of worn off of Shinsuke on SmackDown as well. And that was a booking thing too, because they had a chance. Put the title on Shinsuke, and let's see what he can do with it. But nope, he loses.
Well, they're still in the midst of that, so let's see what they do at the next pay-per-view. There's still a chance of salvaging that.
But again, you've got Asuka, who, is an attractive woman, but she's not gorgeous. She's got a good body, but, doesn't have a six-pack abs or anything like that. And so, yeah, it does worry me a little bit on what they're going to do with her. Because, again, the way they use her on NXT works, although recently I've been a little with her whole, they tried to do that stupid interview thing where she kept going, and next question, and it just, that was just terrible. I
didn't mind that, but the problem with that was supposed to be a precursor to a heel turn that they never fucking actually did.
Right. Instead, it just seemed like maybe she was cranky that day.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, speaking of women on their periods, Natalya made a black woman.
See, I have another thing to say there, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Because we're done talking about it. All right. So Natalya, a white woman, made a black woman beg to be released.
Why do we have to go there? Come on. We're better than that. We're not great, but we're better than that.
No, we're not.
I'm better than that.
Yeah. So that was something that happened. Less said about that is better. But Carmella and James Ellsworth are apparently at least finger banging.
They're approaching some sort of a dominatrix angle now with Carmella. We started to see that last week where she grabs him vigorously, makes out with his face, and then proceeds to follow that up by slapping him in the face. And now this week she's dragging him around by a dog collar. So apparently, in the last week or so, she discovered S&M and really got into it.
I'm sorry, I was just picturing Big Cass trying to come up with a safe word.
My safe word is Enzo.
Oh boy, I feel
Problem is every time he yells
like
it, Enzo pops his head and goes, "How you doing?"
How you doing? Come on, Enzo, knock it off. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this topic really. So just trying to get out of the way. I was trying to lump all the women into one here.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, look, I appreciate the fact that they did a clean finish in that match because it sort of closes the book on Natalya and Naomi, which is not something they always do, is give you closure on an angle. They kept the Money in the Bank briefcase involved. I don't understand why we need to go all of a sudden to the Carmella's a dominatrix. She doesn't fit that gimmick at all. Like, if anything, I could make a case for Natalya being the dominatrix of the group. Black leather, head to toe. She fits that gimmick way better than Carmella does.
I don't know. I don't want to think of Natalya getting a penis in her. So
she black leather pants, ordering TJ around, farting in his face. There's not very very dominatrix like features on this woman.
Well, I mean, that's probably more along the fact that, TJ can't get a boner around a woman than anything, so I don't know. Yeah. Now, was that me insinuating he's gay, or was that me insinuating that he's a paraplegic? The world will never know.
He's back to working. He's actually an agent backstage.
Yeah, so is Draws. All right.
Wow. So TJ is actually walking around just fine, Troy. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I think you're wrong.
Nope. I've seen him. He's good.
Okay. Are you sure it wasn't special effects?
They can't even do fucking pyro anymore. They're gonna make special effects like that.
If they were, it would be like they would have like Big Show with like flour all over him in front of a white screen and just holding him up. See, he wasn't paralyzed by one of our workers. Hi.
I'm just waiting for the first time that Vince McMahon discovers the new "an emoji" feature on the iPhone where you can make the emojis talk and follow your face motions. Because I guarantee you some promo is going to be cut by the giant piece of poop.
Oh, you sure you're not?
It's definitely going to happen. It's fait accompli.
You know what else is going to happen?
What's that, Troy?
You're going to pick the next topic.
I'm going to pick the next topic. Well, then, let's go to what I thought was the best thing of the week and probably the best thing going in the WWE right now, and that is Kevin Owens versus the McMahons on SmackDown. This week, last week we had the all-out assault on Shane McMahon by Kevin Owens that led to Shane's indefinite suspension and the announcement that this week the patriarch of the McMahon clan, Vince, would be in the house. And he was, in fact, there, and he wasn't there to acquiesce to Kevin Owens. He was there to tell Kevin Owens to fuck off and to make the match with Shane for Hell in a Cell, put it inside the cell, and then Kevin Owens proceeded to make him promise that he wouldn't fire him no matter how badly he beat a McMahon in the ring. Vince promised, and Kevin Owens beat the ever-loving shit out of Vince McMahon. I thought this segment was amazing. I thought Kevin Owens was absolutely pitch perfect in everything he did on this week's episode. From the opening segment where they did the tease with Dolph Ziggler, who did a very good Shane McMahon impression. Let me just say that. all the way through the promo, the backstage stuff, the interaction with Sami Zayn. I don't know if you caught that part. There's a backstage segment where Kevin Owens basically said, "Listen, remember when we were back in all those, VFW halls, and we were saying, just anything we could do. One day we would get to the WWE, so we didn't have to do this anymore. Well, you can go back and work there after I fire you," or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, given that Sammy was once again left off the show, I wonder if he might be better off going back to those bingo halls. But
There you go.
who knows? But yeah, I thought Owens was on point. I thought everything was great. I went into this feud very skeptical, not thinking I would like it. I think this has been the best booked thing in the company right now.
I would agree. And so here's where I need to divert into two different Troys, because wrestling fan Troy thought this was great. Thought it was awesome. Yeah, like you said, Owens was great. Him super kicking McMahon was great. Vince's inability to take a bump was hilarious. And then there's outside looking in Troy, who says, the man who is currently facing a concussion lawsuit allowed another guy to hardway him with a headbutt.
Yeah,
so,
the headbutt was obviously an idiotic spot to put in there, but
yeah. So that was my only issue, was when I saw that I was like, okay, I get it.
But he's never lost a lawsuit in his life.
That's because he threw money at everything.
Although it's weird that we're watching him cut that promo about having never lost a lawsuit on WWE SmackDown.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Instead of WWF SmackDown.
I just thought of that as you were saying it. Yes, that is true. He has lost lawsuits, in so much as he has had to make settlements. So that may not go down as an official loss, because it goes as, I guess, a tie. But yeah, he definitely has had to make some settlements in the past. Now, like I said, I enjoyed it for what it was, but there was that aspect of it where it's just like, okay, you can't do this anymore. You can't sit there and tell your workers, look, you can't hardware yourself, you can't blade, you can't show blood at all. Don't, try to be safe against your, on your heads, don't get concussions, and then walk out there and be like, hey, Kevin, fucking hit me.
You can't have physicality against women unless it's Stephanie McMahon 2 years in a row at WrestleMania. The rules go out the window for the McMahons. I think we've established that at this point.
Which, by the way, that was the worst part of this segment. Stephanie showing up at the end.
Yeah, her return. There it is. That's the first time we see her on TV since WrestleMania.
So not only does she just magically return, she returns on Shane's show.
Mm-hmm.
And she returns on, essentially to be mad at a guy that was their champion for a while on Raw. On top of that, the last time we saw her and Vince interact, she was very upset at Vince because Vince allowed Shane to have SmackDown. And then all of a sudden she just comes out and is attending to Vince like she's a face. Because I get it, she never knows what she fucking is, if she's a heel or face, but this wasn't like Triple H showing up on NXT. This was Stephanie showing up on SmackDown for no fucking reason.
I will say this. I heard this great idea, and I forget whether it was on message board or if it was on a podcast or whatever. So, but somebody had suggested the notion that the ultimate storyline here is going to be that it was Triple H pulling the strings on Owens, getting him to take out the McMahon family one by one in order to gain control of the company. If that's the ultimate, if that is the end game, if that's where they go, and that's way too creative to give them credit for, so I don't think it'll happen, but if that's the end game, that's just fucking brilliant, and I will be up a standing ovation if that's where they go with this.
Yeah, agreed. But to close out my section of this, how excited are we for Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon in Hell in a Cell?
Incredibly now. And this to me is this was almost the clear mirror image of what Raw was, because you have two guys who have built an incredibly compelling visceral feud that you want to see. That you want to see one guy rip the other one to shreds. You have a clear good guy, a clear bad guy. They didn't break down any fourth walls. They didn't open up the locker room. They did it old school wrestling style to build a program slowly over a few weeks, couple months actually. And now we're here at the crescendo of the storyline, and we have a match and a story that fits inside a Hell of a Cell. It's not a square peg in a round hole. This has been put together brilliantly, and this is exactly what is not happening on the other brand.
Yeah. This is the old build before we had a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. This is where it used to be that it was just two guys that hated each other, that would beat the shit out of each other, would keep costing each other matches or doing different things, and eventually would be like, we're going to settle this in the most fucking carnage-inducing way we can with a Hell in a Cell. So, yeah, this build hasn't felt like your typical Hell in a Cell pay-per-view build that we've been having, where all of a sudden it's, I'll see you in Hell in a Cell, John Cena, because I'm Randy Orton, but we're not going to hit the cell at all. Yeah.
Or, hey, John Cena, go to hell.
Yeah.
Well, how about we go to hell together? You know, that kind of deal.
Right. Yeah. This was, I mean, having Vince be the one to be like, I'm going to lock in Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Was great because, yeah, then you didn't have to have one of the two of them try to work in those dumb fucking lines. You just have, Vince be like, this is the match.
I just came up with a great idea.
Are you going to reference his theme song?
No. You do that Triple H angle that we were talking about earlier, and you make it that Triple H has gotten control of the lockbox that Shane had a couple years ago that we never saw a payoff for.
Yeah.
Closing all the circles here on the rundown.
Yeah.
Exactly what they should do.
Boy. Well, speaking of breaking kayfabe a little bit, let's talk about the night that Roman Reigns and John Cena had.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. So first, Reigns took on My Black Son.
That was the good.
That was the good. It was a good match. It felt a lot like Jordan Cena did last week, where they were putting over Jordan without actually giving him the W.
Right. And I
Cena,
particularly love that they tied in the whole Cena and Angle bit for the Ruthless Aggression Cena debut, and equated it with the Angle Son tie-in. Obviously, I thought it worked really well. The last couple weeks, how they've done that with Reigns and Cena and Jordan.
And then John Cena took on Braun Strowman.
That was the ugly.
Yep, that wasn't great. Strowman needs certain people to mesh well with, and Cena's not one of them, apparently.
My issue with this is the match wasn't great, but the match wasn't designed to be great.
Right.
I talk all the time about them giving it away on free TV, and like I said, I understand that cable packages cost money. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about no builds, no pay-per-view, no nothing. Just, hey, here's this match you've never seen that would sell out pay-per-views, but we're just going to throw it on here because we got nothing else to do. That's what this was. But the issue was it was clearly done in such a way like, hey, we might want to come back to this, so don't give them everything. Give them a little bit of stuff, go easy, pull off the throttle, and have it be a DQ. And they did. That power slam onto the stairs, fucking brutal. That was great. But other than that, Strowman's drop kick. There was some stuff in there, but it wasn't what we've come to expect from a Cena match lately. But it did tie in nicely to Reigns' promo.
Yeah. So we got so this all led to another Cena Reigns promo, and I listened to this again. It was 90% Cena ripping on Reigns, and Reigns trying to get in a couple little one-liners in there, and it just not really working. Mostly because a lot of Reigns says is just his normal, is just the same thing over and over again.
Most
he
of
just
what Reigns said just wasn't fucking true.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest problem. Nobody who understands what you're talking about, when you say ticket sales are great without you, well, I'm looking at, he's there, and I'm looking at photos of a fucking empty arena on Twitter. So, no, they're not. Oh, numbers are great without you. No, they're not. Profits are down. You can't even afford fucking pyro anymore.
Not only that, I mean, there's there's evidence to back it up that Cena pops ratings.
Sure.
So,
and you're only here because you can't make it in Hollywood. Well, the dude's in a fucking Transformers movie with a lead role. He's been in Amy Schumer's movie, Tina Fey. But like, this dude's pretty clearly he's hosted the Kids' Choice Award. Like, this dude's pretty clearly set his flag in Hollywood pretty well at this point.
That was what I thought was kind of funny too. You could say that about The Miz.
Yeah, absolutely. That works for The Miz.
Yeah, you could say that about Triple H.
Sure.
You can't say that about John Cena when he is going to star in a multi-million-dollar franchise.
Right.
And he's also been, like you said, host of a couple different things. He's been on TV, hosting SNL, hosting that fucking Vapid Cunts show, hosting the ESPYs, you know. He also, like you said, you know, was in Trainwreck. He's been in a lot more movies, and guess what? He hosts his own fucking game show. Like, he clearly has made it in Hollywood, and this Transformers movie is probably going to put him over the top.
Right. And if that statement were true, Roman's line of "If you need some help, I know a guy" was fucking great. That line was brilliant, because we all know who he's talking about. Yeah. But the fact that there was no realism to it, and that was breaking down the fourth wall, or an attempt at breaking down the fourth wall, which again, like, does the average Raw viewer, does the person who, you know, paid $70 to take their kids and do they give a fuck what the ratings are, or what Roman Reigns does for the ratings, or if John Cena makes it? They don't give a fuck about this. This is not how you build a program for the casual fan.
Yeah.
I thought the last couple weeks were great because they were taking shots at each other's characters. That's fine. That's what we want. The character assassination of Roman Reigns and John Cena, not Joe NY and, well, John Cena. But that was to me the biggest fucking problem, was that they took all the great stuff from the last 2 weeks and sort of shit all over it by reversing it and doing it in a different way that wasn't nearly as good.
Yeah. So now we're going to get to... Okay, so Reigns' shit was shit. But we've been kind of used to that. Cena stuff was largely factual, and largely pretty biting. But there was one thing I had an issue with, and I'm not sure if you're going to have the same issue, and that was the last line of this promo. And that was Cena saying to a guy who we're trying to get over as a kind of a face, who we are trying to get kids to like, who we know had a wellness violation because his prescription paperwork wasn't turned in on time. And Cena says, like a drug test, you won't get past me. Insinuating that Reigns failed a drug test, which is not true.
Well, yeah, he did. He was suspended for it.
He had a wellness violation because of the fact that his paperwork wasn't turned in.
Which counts as a failure of a test. That's how they count it.
That may be how they count it. But now every one of your fans who don't know the story of that are like, is Cena insinuating that Reigns failed a drug test? And those fans are going to think, drugs. That Roman Reigns is on drugs.
See, here was sort of my problem with that, too, is because, while I enjoyed the line and I thought it was kind of biting, part of me wonders, and maybe I'm being a mark here and I'll fully own it if I am, part of me wonders when you get into this thing where guys are no longer shooting at the character and they're sort of shooting at the guy, if maybe that urge to one-up them goes and makes them take things a little too far. I don't know if that line was scripted, but I sort of got the impression it wasn't. Just kind of the way Cena threw it off as he walked away, like it just came and popped into his head. Roman's reaction, which was sort of like, oh, you fucking asshole. Like, you're just a dick. So I don't know if that was a case of those two guys, you know, going out there and not taking shots at their characters, taking shots at the people, them getting sort of heated about it, and Cena kind of capping it off with the, okay, now I'm going to do this and you can't fucking respond. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be, you know, like I said, completely being worked here, and probably am, which, you know, maybe a sign that it's a good thing. But I thought that was definitely unnecessary. And we talked about the breaking down of the fourth wall. There was, again, just another unnecessary moment that doesn't build. It doesn't make the fact that, oh, you said Roman can't pass a drug test. Well, that makes me want to see this match more, except not at all.
Yeah.
The fact that fucking Kevin Owens beat the shit out of Shane's dad makes me want to see Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon. The fact that John Cena said, you can't pass a drug test, doesn't make me want to see that match a fucking fraction more than I did. I still wanted to see it. I've always wanted to see this match. I think it's going to be a great fucking match. And then you put things in Roman's mouth like, oh, I've had more great matches in 2 years than you've had in your career. Well, motherfucker, look, I'm the first one to sit here and say Roman Reigns doesn't get the credit for his in-ring that he deserves. I've said that. You can attest that. I've said that from the moment I stepped on this show. But did you watch Cena and Styles? That series of matches? Did you see the U.S. Open challenges? The series of matches with Kevin Owens? There's like, Cena's in-ring has been as good as anybody's over the last few years.
Yeah. And if Reigns was a cut and dry heel, you could throw it off as, well, that's a typical heel thing to do, is say things that aren't real, but say them as if they believe it.
Right.
But that's not what his character is. We're led to believe that everything that is coming out of his mouth is not only true, but it's something he believes to be true. Now, there's a different way to go about it than him just being like, I've had better matches than you. Well, Cena has had like 13 years of matches, and he's had great matches each of those 13 years.
Right.
So that's just not the right way to do this. And yeah, like you said, this build doesn't need much build, you know, and with them continuing to going out and, you know, cutting each other's dicks off with these little kind of snarky comments, it's not improving the storyline at all.
No,
because all they're doing is talking.
Right.
You know, and these are two guys. Reigns they've booked him great the past couple of months where he wasn't talking and he was just taking people out left and right. I mean, him and Stroman just beat the ever-loving piss out of each other.
Oh, he made Braun Strowman in that feud.
Yeah, and here we have John Cena and Reigns, and they're just fucking jabbering at each other, and you're like, just fucking either hit each other or kiss each other, because I'm bored.
Oh, I don't want them to hit each other. I don't want the physicality to start at all till the match. I want them to hold off on that, and I'm glad they're holding off on that. But there's got to be more creative ways to do this than sit there and try to get really inside and really buzz that crowd, because as much as I'm a member of that crowd, we're not the ones buying tickets and pay-per-views, motherfuckers.
Right. And one of the things that you can do is, what's one thing that Cena cares about? Winning matches. So why wouldn't you have Roman Reigns go out there and fucking just spear Cena's opponent and make that person win by DQ? And then Cena loses. Yeah. That's a great way to do it, too, because then you could just have Reigns walk away smirking and be like, aha, fucker, I fucked up your match.
Yeah, you could do that.
And there's a lot of different ways to do it. And if you are going to just do promo battles, you have to eventually let Reigns win something, because he has looked like a chump both times that Cena has verbally tore him down. And his little, like you said, his little like one-liners that he throws in there are just false. And he could easily turn around, and I liked the first time we did this where Reigns was talking about, I'm in your place now. You're old, get out, nobody wants you here anymore. That's fine. Say that, because that's at least factual for a lot of fans.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of fans are bored of John Cena. Now, those same fans probably don't like Roman Reigns very much.
Right.
But at least that's a factual statement to make. Like, look, you're old news. I'm the hot new commodity. Instead of just being like, I've had so many good fucking matches. Look, motherfucker, both of you have had people chant, you can't wrestle at you. And those people are wrong about both people. But only one of you has had people chant that very recently. So, yeah. Like you said, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Obviously, this is still going to be a really good match. Despite the booking leading up to it. And we can still turn this around. We've got time. We've got a couple of weeks before whatever the fuck it is. But it's No Mercy, right?
Yeah.
No, we don't. No Mercy's next week, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, next week's the go home.
Oh, yeah. So we got one more week to turn this around, and I don't see it happening. because the thing I think is going to happen is next week tag team match play. But speaking of tag team matches,
versus Jason Jordan and some other short white guy.
Wait, didn't he just have a short white partner? That doesn't matter. All right. So speaking of Vince McMahon not caring about tag teams, feeding into our conversation about their plans for the New Day won the titles again.
Yep.
Because reasons.
First off, preface, once again, great match. These two teams have tremendous chemistry together. You can say that they're responsible for now two of the best matches we've had in the last calendar year on SmackDown. That said, I don't know where you go from here unless it's, a Hell in a Cell tag match. Maybe. I don't think we've ever really seen that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've seen handicap matches, right, with Vince and Shane and Show versus DX or something, but I don't think we've ever seen a straight tag team title match in Hell in a Cell. But short of that, I don't know where you go. Like if you don't go to Hell in a Cell, I think this sort of has to be over. You've done two matches, you've done the stipulation match, you've done two title changes. Problem is, you've now put the belts back on the New Day, and there's not a single credible heel tag team besides the Usos on SmackDown for them to feud with.
There's not another heel tag team on SmackDown.
It's true.
Because the Ascension are a joke. Right. They get laughs now.
Well, that's why I said credible, but yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't really consider them a heel tag team
True.
right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
You've got Breezango who are over as faces, so it would have made more sense for them to, take the titles off the Usos with Breezango.
Which, by the way, I will rarely advocate for 205 Live, but if you get a chance, go check out 205 Live this week just for the Drew Gulak Breezango segment because it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's the smarter way of booking 205 Live is having things like that.
Yep.
Enzo, he's doing fine. Being on both shows, he's getting more eyes, I'm sure, on it. But that show's still in trouble. But that's not part of our Perfect 10 here. So unless we have somebody turn heel, but who you can't.
Maybe the Hype Bros.
But does anyone really care?
Well, you can make them care. A lot of people didn't care about the Usos till the heel turn either.
Right.
If you do a heel turn right, you can make people care.
Right. Obviously, I think that, eventually AOP, but they haven't even debuted, and you do not want to debut them against the New Day.
Well, they basically dropped the whole Fashion Files thing that looked like it might have been leading to AOP, who were not at the last set of NXT taping, so they're almost certain to be moving up.
Yeah. But now we just got to figure out where to work them in. And like I said, you do not want to have them go against the New Day right off the bat because you need to have a team put them over, which is why Breezango would have been good for it, or turn around and have the Hype Bros do it. But yeah, otherwise.
Now, I don't believe, if I'm correct, and you can check this for me and verify. But I don't think either member of Breezango would qualify for 205 Live.
Let me go ahead and check.
You owe me for that tremendous setup. But yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for... How much does this guy weigh? All right.
You can't intro the segment until you got the answers in front of you, man.
Tyler Breeze is a whopping 212 pounds.
Not qualified for 205 Live.
Qualified. I almost put in Johnny Curtis. That's going to be... Shh. Don't pay no attention to that. Johnny Curtis is 244 pounds. So
definitely not qualifying for 205 Live.
Definitely not qualifying. So that just leaves Mojo Rawley, who is, of course, 265 pounds. So, sorry. Pay no attention to the baby crying. I'm hoping it will go away. Hoping it'll resolve itself. But I'm thinking it's probably not going to, so that might be an issue.
Speaking of things that we're hoping will go away, Sasha and Emma had a match on Raw this week that I actually thought the match itself was not bad and sort of showed you what Emma can do in a decent program with somebody who's got some talent in the ring with her. Of course, that led to a segment later on. Nia came out, Alexa came out, they did commentary. And then, of course, next thing you know, later on, we get a backstage segment where this match you've been sort of quietly building towards, Alexa and Nia, dropping hints for a while, nice slow build to this. Yeah, we're going to do that next week on Raw. You know, again, no real hype, just kind of a throwaway to lead into the Fatal 4-Way at the pay-per-view. Nothing significant, nothing major, it's just, we're going to do this match because. And that's just the continuation of what they've been doing lately. There's no build, There's actually been build for this. I shouldn't say that. They have had build for this.
Pay no attention to that.
That is the first guest cameo on the rundown of Troy's new baby. Yeah, but there's been no build for this. There's been a build for this match, but you would think they built it in such a way that it was going to be a big match at the pay-per-view, except now we get Alexa and Nia non-title next week as, again, just a throwaway leading into the pay-per-view. And it just kind of seems like a waste of what you've built.
It definitely is a waste, and especially because you don't have a lot of new matches for the women. And this was one where, these two have been kept apart, and we've built it as, Nia is coming for her championship. So, this one for sure, I'm questioning why the fuck we're doing it. Unless they wind up being smart and just have Alexa get counted out before even getting into the match. But otherwise, I mean, if you're going to actually have these two fight, it's a waste.
Yeah, and my guess is some sort of combination of, Sasha and Emma running out and getting involved and, that big 4-way schmoz kind of fight that leads into a Fatal 4-Way at a pay-per-view. But it just seems like, again, keep it special when you actually do it. I don't get the point. I really don't. Speaking of things that I'm not quite sure I get the point of, as much as I'm a fan of this guy, Ty Dillinger, U.S. title match with AJ Styles on SmackDown this week. The match was good, and as you would expect it to be with these two, because they're both amazingly talented performers. But again, you get Baron Corbin comes running in to do something. It's just I don't get the point of doing this. To me, maybe you made Dillinger a little more credible. Sure, I'll give you that. He came out of it looking good. You had the one real false finish that looked close to being an actual victory for Ty. I don't think anybody bought at any point in that match that Dillinger was really going to win the title. And to me, that's where a title match like that sort of fails. You have to have at least a moment where you go, oh my God, oh no, okay. I don't think this one ever really had that, but just that's not a fault of anybody in the match. It's more of a fault of the fact that I don't think anybody bought that they'd put the title on Ty given how they've used him.
Right, and we had the same kind of issue with Cena's Open Challenge where we're like, well, we know he's not going to lose, but at least it's going to be a great match. And right. This felt the same way, where it was, okay, well, we know Styles is not going to just randomly lose the title, although I guess he's facing Baron Corbin at the pay-per-view.
Yeah. They haven't officially announced it yet, but that's certainly
right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it looks like he's going to face him. So, clearly we can't have him, take the title out, or we can't take the title off of him. I'm hoping that this is the way that we give Baron Corbin the U.S. Championship, and AJ can start going for the World Championship again. Because at this point, I mean, he doesn't need it as much, and there's a lot of other guys that this would really help out, like Ty Dillinger.
Mm-hmm. Even Rusev, and as much as we don't want to see Rusev go backwards, I think even a U.S. title program or run at this point would be good for him, given what he's actually doing.
Yeah, it would be something at least.
Right. Instead, he's now back to saying, "I'm going to get Randy Orton." Yeah, so whatever.
Because everyone cares about that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Although it's an interesting point. Like, you watched SmackDown this week, you had your World Heavyweight Champion heel on there. Mm-hmm. Yet the biggest heel on the fucking show is Kevin Owens, who's not the champion, who's not in a championship program, who hasn't been in a top championship program since coming to SmackDown, yet he's your best heel performer right now.
Yeah.
Clearly,
I mean,
it's not close.
And it's easy to put the Usos above Jinder as well.
Sure,
in terms of heel performers, because fans are actually reacting to the Usos, and I think both of us were at least hoping that things would get better for Jinder.
Yeah. I will say he got a Maharaja chant this week, so there was a little bit of a fan reaction. But again, he's a heel.
Yeah.
Fans are cheering for him.
Right. And I think part of that is, the fact that it's kind of dying out. We were having it for a little bit when he was doing like the celebrations and stuff like that, and now we're kind of just like, all right, well, what else you got, dude?
Well, and I think the other thing is poor Jinder's being put in a really bad spot where he has to sort of learn on the fly how to be a top guy.
Right.
He's got no experience being a top guy, but they put the heavyweight championship on him, and now he's got to learn kind of like just with the red light on, and that's an incredibly difficult spot to put the guy in.
Yeah, agreed. Keep going.
All right. Speaking of incredibly difficult spots to put someone in, Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar had a face-off this week on Raw. Started with Heyman cutting another great Heyman promo. Not surprised at all with that, because that's just what we've come to expect from Paul Heyman. Where it got interesting was Heyman, did the stole a note from UFC, fighter ready to Lesnar, fighter ready towards the back, fight. Stroman comes out on cue, which was great, that he was just standing there and ready to go as Heyman cut his promo. But he comes out, they mix it up a little bit. Brock hits a German, and Stroman pops right up.
That was great.
Totally no-sold the German. Hats off to Lesnar. His reaction, his facials there were tremendous. Really sold the whole thing. Strowman picks him up, choke slams, because, he took the Big Show out, so he gets to steal his powers.
Mm-hmm. It's like Mega Man.
Yeah, exactly. And then he hits him with the power slam and stands over him with his foot on him and holding up the belt, which I thought was a great visual. This was exactly how you end the go-home episode before... Oh, no, wait. Next week's the go.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
excellent. Yep.
Yeah, and Lesnar's not booked for the go. That's right. Okay, cool. Got it. Yeah. No, I thought it was great. It seemed like it was a week early, but I thought it was done really well.
Yeah, for sure. Paul's promo was Paul's promo. I don't always, find him as entertaining as everybody else does, because a lot of it's the same thing. But I did like the whole fighter ready thing. I thought that was really clever. I like the fact that Paul is always really good about just hauling ass as soon as somebody else comes out.
Yeah.
I think he learned his lesson from Samoa Joe. And yeah, this was really good, and it did a really good job of showing, that Strowman can take on Lesnar. My child is not happy.
I think this is a first in the history of the rundown.
A child getting fed a bottle on the rundown? Yeah, probably.
A guest starring. My child is guest starred, but he's not a baby, so...
That's true.
Fair enough.
I do have a voicemail about this, but I'm having a little trouble getting it to be able to play it. So...
That's okay, we'll get to it. If we get to it, we'll get to it.
We get to it, yeah.
Last thing on the main event on this week's Perfect 10... the finals of the Mae Young Classic took place last night. Like I said, we're recording this on Wednesday, so it was last night at the end of the SmackDown tapings. Of course, it was Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler. I thought that... did you see the match yet, Troy?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you follow the whole rest of the tournament? Are you caught up, or did you just watch the final?
I just watched the final.
Okay. I thought the match was great. I thought it was old school booking. They snuck in the little stuff about the ribs, and then ultimately that ended up being what came into play in the finals. Shayna looked great locking on her hold. That kick to the side of the head was fucking brutal. She locked in her submission hold. She wore Kairi down. Kairi's selling was phenomenal. Her facials were great. Everything about this worked for me. Were there a couple of slips, maybe a mistake here or there? Sure, absolutely. But all in all, these girls did a tremendous job. And for, well, not necessarily Kyrie, but for Shayna, probably her first time performing in front of a crowd of that size. And I thought did a great job. Didn't seem rattled at all. Little bit surprised a bit that we did not get any furtherment of the horsewomen versus four horsewomen angle. They made a big deal about Rousey being in the house.
Oh, they made a big deal about Rousey on each one of these episodes, is what I've been told. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's why even during this match, I was like, this is the Ronda Rousey Classic. Because they just continue to show her throughout. And I get it. She's the biggest name of anybody on the program there, you know. Well,
do we think Shayna Baszler makes it to the finals if she's not friends with Ronda Rousey, I guess?
Yeah, I had to kind of figure that was the reason, although she's very deserving. She's very good. But yeah, I thought the right person won on this one because Kyrie obviously is a much more well-rounded, a wrestler. She's obviously got the more experience. Shayna's got a little bit of ways to come on certain things, but she is looking really good, and I look forward to seeing both of them on NXT very soon. Yeah. If I ever watch it again.
And for those who didn't hear the update, apparently Triple H broke the news immediately following the Mae Young Classic final that Kairi Sane has now moved into a match at the next TakeOver in November, where she will be in a match to determine who the new NXT Women's Champion will be. We don't have many details about who else will be in that. The tapings were scheduled for tonight, have been moved due to the hurricane to tomorrow night, so we'll have probably a much clearer picture after those tapings go down and after they air. But it's sort of, again, we talked about a little bit about it when there was rumor that they were going to put the belt into the tournament. You just kind of took this woman and said, you beat no NXT talents, but now we're going to put you into the finals for the NXT Championship. And it just sort of seems like a hollow thing for everybody else, all the other ladies down in NXT.
Yeah, at least this way, she isn't just granted it. She has to actually fight somebody for it. Now, however they're going to figure out who she's going to fight, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious it's probably going to be one of the Iconic girls. But
oh, I don't know. Ember's right up there.
I was just thinking because I guess we don't really know if she's heel or face yet. I would just figure it would be one of those ones, just so you can kind of save maybe a bigger match with her down the line to build a feud with it. But we'll see. Maybe it could be Ruby Riott.
Who knows? It could be anybody at this point. We'll see. I don't know if the NXT is going to hold their own tournament to determine who the other person is, if they're going to pick 4 women. We just don't know. And I guess it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It does tell us that we're going to be sitting for at least a couple months without a female champion down in NXT, or at least another, 2 months till November, till the Survivor Series takeover.
Well, I mean, you could have somebody win the belt, and then there's your challenger for Kairi.
I guess, yeah, fair point. Fair point. You could have a tournament and the winner gets the title and then has to face Kairi. That's I guess an angle many of us hadn't considered. So hats off on that one because I didn't think of it that way.
So yeah, we'll see. But we've got a little bit of ways to go on that, and yeah, we're still waiting on the tapings anyways because of the hurricanes. But no. We'll see.
Yeah. So that wraps up.
Baby.
So that wraps up the perfect 10 for this week.
She's trying to steal my cards.
I believe that is Troy's baby telling us it's time to go to the news desk. And leading off the news desk this week, we have a little bit of injury news. Samoa Joe has been out of action since late August after suffering a knee injury during a match with John Cena at a WWE live event. WWE had planned for him to wrestle Cena on Raw on August 28th, but the match was dropped. While a timetable for his return was originally set at 4 to 6 weeks, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, Joe is now slated to return to action at the end of October. Joe last wrestled on the post-SummerSlam edition of Raw on August 21st, and a former NXT champion partnered with The Miz in a losing effort to Cena and Roman Reigns. So, obviously, it's a tough break for Joe. He was in the middle of his first real big major push on the main roster. I have a feeling when he comes back, he'll sort of pick up right where he left off, maybe even with a little more heat, because, absence tends to make the heart grow fonder sometimes. And if booked right on his return, I think there's a very real chance he could come back as even a bigger star than he went out before this injury. So hopefully we'll be seeing Joe back on television in the very near future. A guy we won't be seeing on WWE TV in the near future, as far as we could tell, is Rey Mysterio. And there is currently no word on where Rey is headed, but we know it will not be Global Force Wrestling, because according to PW Insider and the Wrestling Observer, Rey had an offer from GFW after negotiations between the two sides, but he opted not to take the offer. It's been noted before that Rey was in talks with WWE over the summer, but those talks stopped as Vince McMahon did not want to work with Rey's representation, mainly Conan. Among other reasons, it was also noted that while Rey and WWE were talking, the talks were said to be overblown in the first place, as Rey was actually looking at signing with GFW because of the easier schedule and because it would allow him more freedom to do other projects. When word first got out about Rey talking with WWE, Dave Meltzer was told that there was actually GFW Rey was talking with, and that there was nothing significant to the WWE reports. While his in-ring future with a major company is up in the air, Mysterio is said to be focused on training his son Dominic and preparing him for a pro wrestling career. Rey is also heavily involved with the Crash promotion in Mexico, of course, run by Conan. GFW wanted Rey to wrestle against Alberto El Patron at the November 5th Bound for Glory pay-per-view, according to the Observer. It's been noted how Jarrett versus Patron was in the works for Bound for Glory, but it is likely off the books now that Jarrett is taking an indefinite leave of absence from the company. The Observer notes that the storyline would have had Alberto blaming Jarrett for his recent GFW suspension. Jarrett vs. Alberto was to be teased until they pulled a big swerve on the night of the show and had Jarrett introduce Rey as Alberto's opponent instead. When the talks with Rey fell through, plans changed back to Jarrett versus Patron at Bound for Glory. There's still no word yet on what Alberto will be doing at Bound for Glory, if anything at all, although news broke late today that they did announce Alberto would return to the company at Bound for Glory. On a related note, Rey suffered an ankle injury while working for the catch wrestling promotion in Austria, during an 8-man single elimination tournament in 4 cities from August 30th through September 2nd. Rey defeated Alofa on August 30th and Apollo on September 1st to make it to the finals of the tournament. He then appeared in the finals on September 2nd in Vienna and apologized for the injury, promising to return to Vienna and make up for it. His opponent for that night, Joe Doring, then attacked him, but Rey made a quick comeback, hit a 619, and rolled him up for the win. Then went to the hospital after the match to get the ankle checked out, and while there was an injury, it was not serious, and he is expected back in the ring soon. The Observer noted that Rey suffered the injury because he had been working several dates in recent weeks. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's all it said. Apparently the Observer wrote that wrong. I think they meant to say that it's not known where he suffered the injury because he's worked several dates in recent weeks.
Close enough.
Where would you like to see Rey Mysterio end up? If you got to pick, GFW, WWE, stay in Lucha. If you're Rey, what would you do?
I would get the fuck away from GFW.
Good idea.
I would not want to see him back in WWE. Not only because of the fact that I'm pretty sure he's no longer a cruiserweight, but also I was never a big Rey Mysterio fan. That's just me. But, Lucha Underground is a good place for him, or just going back to AAA.
I don't know if he's going to go back to AAA. He's got a lot of ill feelings with the promotion, as far as I understand.
Right. Yeah, which kind of counts, Lucha Underground out a little bit too, because they have that kind of working relationship with them too. So. And
of course, he's very tight with Conan, who has a lot of problems with AAA and Dario.
Right. Yeah. So.
Dorian, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I would like to see him go. Either that, or retire. Get done with it.
Or another option, he could always go to hell.
There you go. Speaking of hell, I'm going to put you through 2 minutes and 17 seconds of hell because here's Sal's voicemail that we missed.
Just could have waited till after the news segment, man.
Maybe.
The fuck?
Hold on.
Did he have DJ Jazzy Jeff doing his fucking intro?
Now this week, we had the advocate himself, Paul Heyman, come out. And he came out there with his client, Brock Lesnar. And he hyped him up, and Brock was ready. Brock was ready for a fight. So much so that they called down his next challenger, Braun Strowman. And, Strowman fucking beat his ass. Now, we saw that thread continue later on the show where Strowman beat the bag out of Cena and left him for dead. But to do it against Brock, the Universal Champion, the man who Strowman will face at No Mercy, it's an interesting deal for me because I appreciate them showing Braun as a dominant force. There's something been taken off of Brock Lesnar in the past couple months. Maybe it was originally in that feud with Samoa Joe. He just doesn't seem as dangerous as he used to be. And I think if there was ever a time that he's going to lose that belt, it's going to be to Braun Strowman. I think they found next big thing. I'm kind of all in favor for it, but I just find it very interesting the way Brock has been depicted the past couple months. And I know that he was a beast at SummerSlam. You know, he came back being injured. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it that he got a 20-minute rest. You know, while everybody else was beating the shit out of each other. So it was a good segment, but it's very interesting that they are making Braun the be-all, end-all. So if Lesnar retains, man, that shit's gonna get old real quick. Other than that, hope you guys have a good show. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of what we touched on. But it does actually segue not too bad into the next news story. As Paul Heyman has been causing controversy backstage by changing Brock Lesnar's segments to meet his own tastes, according to the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer. Heyman is said to have enough sway with Vince McMahon that he is able to change direction of promos in which his client is involved without being challenged. Despite the support of the chairman, Heyman's decisions are supposedly causing tension with people in management and creative team writers who believe that Lesnar would be more open to different ideas without his friend in his ear. Heyman, who has worked with the creative team in the past, does not officially hold any creative privileges in his current capacity with the WWE. Heyman does have a lot of pull with Vince, and the reality is most of the unique Lesnar creative, whether it's in the angles or match structures or finishes, are out of the box and for the better, Meltzer said. My belief is that the Joe program helped spark a business turnaround that led to an even stronger momentum, the Great Four-Way with the Great Four-Way and the Stroman program. We've heard backstage, Heyman's always been sort of a backstage politician, so this doesn't surprise me at all. Sort of surprised me a little bit that Vince is on board with it, though.
I like the fact that they refer to him as like as that you refer to Brock Lesnar as Paul's client. Paul doesn't have anything to do with Brock Lesnar other than these are the segments I'm going to be in, though. So that's always kind of funny to me, where they're just like, he's not his real manager. They realize that, right?
No, he actually is. He is a I forget his exact title, but he is he does get a percentage of Lesnar.
That's weird.
No, it is an actual relationship business wise between the two of them.
Oh, well, either way, I'm done with Brock Lesnar, so.
During a recent interview with El Arabia English, Finn Balor said that his fellow WWE superstar and Bullet Club alumni Carl Anderson thought that the demon gimmick would flop when he proposed it in Japan, saying, quote, honestly, the first time the demon came, and it wasn't referred to as the demon at that point, I just wanted to use body paint, Balor said. The first time I did that, I said to my best friend Carl Anderson that I'm going to do this thing. I explained to him what I was going to do, and he said, do not do that, you're going to be laughed out of the building. Obviously this didn't happen, that the whole demon character was designed for people to hate me more and to be scared of me, and it kind of backfired in the sense that people kind of like it now. Anderson responded to this on Twitter by admitting that he was, quote, completely wrong, saying, friends can be honest with each other, that's a good thing. Also, I obviously completely wrong. So, Carl Anderson, not necessarily the guy you want to go to for good advice on what will work and what will not.
Considering that the way that they're currently booked, I would say that's correct.
Now we talked a little about Enzo. We're going to get into a little bit slightly more salacious stuff, because last week on Raw, color commentator Corey Graves made a comment about Enzo Amore that seemed a bit on the personal side, as during the six-man tag match pitting Amore, Alexander, and Gran Metalik against Noam Dar, Tony Nese, and Drew Gulak, Graves said, quote, Enzo cheats on his taxes, cheats on his girlfriend, cheats in a tag match, end quote. Fans of Amore would know that he has or had been dating NXT star Liv Morgan. However, they haven't posted anything about their relationship on social media since May, after semi-regularly doing so, which has led to speculation that they are no longer a couple. Cracks in the relationship began to show when Amore posted a photo of himself on what appeared to be a dinner date with actress Halle Berry, and then it was a reported encounter with a stripper in July. In a tweet on Saturday night, Morgan confirmed that she is single and hinted that Amore cheated on her when she tweeted, a picture of herself with the caption, me knowing that I'm single and nobody cheating on me. Morgan now has her eyes on Tyler Bate, as earlier in the day she responded to a tweet the first ever United Kingdom champion sent out in July promoting his t-shirt, saying, I like your shirt. Morgan retweeted his response of, I like your face. During a recent interview on the Sam Roberts Wrestling podcast, Big Cass was asked about the rumors of Amore having heat backstage, saying, quote, Enzo is Enzo. The guy you see on TV is the guy you see in real life. Enzo wouldn't be in the spot he's in. He wouldn't have made it this far if he didn't act the way he does. So there's the good with the bad. He was also asked if he has distanced himself from Amore now that their characters have split apart. Quote, no, I don't think so. I don't think I've distanced myself from him. The storyline has kind of taken on its own thing. Once it started being talked about and people started talking about it on the internet, then they're like, oh, really? People talk about it? Well, okay, if it's not real, let's pretend it is real and put more out there on TV. I read that as Cass saying that the Enzo stuff is not is being overblown on the internet. But if you're dating a girl who bears a striking resemblance to one of the hottest porn stars in history, how do you screw that up?
What the fuck is wrong with Liv Morgan's taste in men? Anyway, yeah.
That is perhaps the more prevalent question.
I mean, I think we all kind of know that Enzo seems like a little bit of a piece of shit. So him cheating on Liv Morgan, not that surprising. Considering that one of the news stories that came out was like him bringing a bunch of girls backstage and stuff like that. He's always seemed like kind of a sleazeball, but he's a lovable sleazeball, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I've been saying it since we started, this whole thing with Enzo, that it's probably not as bad as it sounds. And I fully believe it, because I don't think he's within inches of getting fired. I don't believe that everybody hates him, like has been talked about, because we know the WWE has no problem pulling guys off, even if they do pop ratings a little bit. If they don't like them, they're getting rid of them. So, they keep using him predominantly in things, and they don't really need to. They could just strut him out there and have him face off against Kurt Hawkins this week or something like that. But instead, he's being pushed, not only in the cruiserweight thing, but he also had a match with The Miz, or a segment with The Miz. So, yeah, again, I don't think it's as dire as everyone seems to think it is.
Well, there are some that subscribe to the notion that they're running Enzo out there and making him act like an asshole now in public to kind of quell the merch sales, which makes it much more palatable to fire him. I don't know if they're going to send a guy out there intentionally to sabotage him, but it certainly wouldn't be the first time Vince McMahon did something questionable like that.
Yeah, but he would just fire him. He would not send him out there to be like, I'm going to fuck with your merchandise sales. Quite the opposite. He would stop sending him out there, and people would forget about him, and merchandise sales would tank because you don't see Enzo anymore. So no, they would just fire him if they had big of enough problem.
The only way they would fire him is if Vince's son beat him up, and then he threatened to sue. Then Vince would fire him.
That's very true.
As we learned that this week. WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley announced on Twitter this week, I should say, that he is undergoing knee replacement surgery. Foley also announced that he will be appearing at WrestleCon during WrestleMania 34 weekend. Immediately following the surgery, Foley tweeted, "Feeling good, feeling tired after the surgery, but I'm told it was a very successful operation. Thanks for all the well wishes, and we in the Rundown would certainly like to send our well wishes along to the hardcore legend on his recovery."
Word.
Nothing.
It's Foley. Good for him. He got the surgery he needed.
Wasn't he just taking bumps at some indie show a week ago?
He took the Joey Ryan dick flip.
That seems like if you're gonna have knee surgery and just had a hip replacement, seems like an unnecessary risk.
You think?
A little bit. Speaking of unnecessary risks, 205 Live star Jack Gallagher tied the knot earlier this week with European-based independent wrestler Ciara Alexis Rose Sinclair. So congratulations to the new couple on their nuptials. And, again, we talked about 205 Live. Jack Gallagher with a bit of a heel turn this week on 205 Live out of nowhere.
I didn't watch it.
I didn't either.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I perused it because a couple people.
Who's Jack Gallagher?
Okay, well, I guess that doesn't... Yeah. Anyway, the guy who fought Neville a couple months back, does the sick headbutt, has the umbrella.
I don't know what that is.
That would be the angle. Like Maurice pops out the kid, and we find out it's actually Bo Dallas or Curtis Axel's kid. That's the money angle right there.
There you go. But, can I say something? Who stabbed Curtis Axel in the gut? Look at that guy's stomach. He has a weird line right on his stomach, like somebody stabbed him there.
Like an appendix scar kind of deal.
It might be an appendix scar, yeah. I don't know. It seems different because it's on a big built dude, but yeah, it's very noticeable.
I've never noticed it, and I noticed the Baron Corbin thing ahead of everybody else. So.
All right, I'll work on it for you.
Okay. Well, this is sort of fitting way to end the news desk because we've had a run-in by a child, and we've talked a lot about kids between Maurice's pregnancy and all the other stuff. But Christy Hemme is pregnant and, ladies and gentlemen, is expecting quadruplets. The former WWE Diva and TNA Knockout revealed the big news this week in a video posted on her YouTube channel saying, quote, "So I am pregnant. Yay, been trying for a long time. Very, very excited. But I'm just not pregnant with one baby," she said. "I'm not pregnant with 2 babies or 3 babies. No, no, no. I am pregnant with quadruplets." Hemme, who is 15 weeks pregnant, said it's a high-risk pregnancy, therefore she plans to spend most of it in bed or in the hospital. She added, "I am so excited, you guys. I'm beyond excited. I am also scared and petrified, and every emotion in the book." She was the winner of the WWE's inaugural Diva Search in 2004 with a prize of a 1-year talent contract worth $250,000. She stayed with WWE until December of 2005 and would join TNA in April of 2006. She worked as a wrestler for a few years and stayed in as a ring announcer until last year. In January of 2015, she gave birth to her first child, a girl named Charlie Rose, which for those of you keeping score at home means she will have 5 children in her house very shortly, 4 of whom will be toddlers and infants at the same time. So I'm guessing she'll kill herself soon.
Well, that took a dark turn. Also, that vag is going to get fucking tore up.
Fair enough. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the news desk. And in lieu of a time travel Adam tweet, I am told that this week's Google voicemail transcript of Sal's call was a little bit entertaining. So I think this would be a good spot for us to have Troy give us the Google transcript call of Sal's voicemail.
I didn't realize we were doing that right now.
Well, I didn't realize we were doing the voicemail earlier, and you sprung that shit on me, so...
That is true. Can you see what I'm talking about now?
Huh?
Here. You see it?
Oh, yeah. Looks like an appendix scar. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
huge. Anyways. All right. What's up, Rundown? It's me. It is Sal calling this week. talk to you about a segment that happened on Monday Night Raw. Now this week, we had the advocate himself, Paul, him, and come out. And we introduced to Eat Come Out there with client Brock Lesnar. And he hyped them up, typed them up, and I've dumped and Broncos ready for a fight. So much so that they called down his next challenge, our brand Stroman. And well, Stroman fucking beat his ass. Now we saw that Fred continue later on the show, where Stroman feet the bag out a scene, left him fitness. What to do it against Brock, the Universal Champion, the man who Stroman will face. No Mercy. Interesting deal for me because I appreciate them showing drawn as a dominant force. There's something been taken off of Brock Lesnar on the past couple of months. Maybe it was recently in that feud with some of Joe. He just doesn't seem as dangerous as it used to be, and I think if there was ever a time that he's going to lose that belt, it's going to be to Braun Strowman. I think they found next big thing. I'm kind of an old favor for it, and I just found it very interesting the way Brock has been to pick the past couple months. And I know that he was a beast at Summersville. You know it. Came back with me and Engine. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it that he got a 20-minute rest. You know, well, everybody else's be shit out of each other. So it wasn't a good segment, but it's very interesting that they are. You know they're making more on it. The be-all and also pleasantry, Manish, it's going to be old real quick. Other than that, hope you guys have a good show. I'll talk to you later. So, we had the grand return of the Fantasy Wrestling League on DropTheBelt.com.
So grand that none of us knew it was actually live again.
I forgot to tell everybody. I got a new job, and I've been a little busy.
Now, Troy forgot to tell everybody we were live. Anyone want to guess who won the first week back?
Now, we have the same rosters as when we last left off. And when we last left off, I had picked up Kitty Meow Meow Poot Poot Face, who retained her championship, as well as Biggie, who won a championship. And because of that, Troy wins. I believe this is my first win of the new Drop the Belt Fantasy League. So with that, I decided to have you create a women's tag team division using current WWE and NXT talent. Doesn't matter what show. I need you to give me your inaugural tag team women's champion and 2 teams that can challenge them.
All right. For the sake of ease and history, you could obviously go for the champions being the Bella Twins. You know, they get the natural tie-in. They make a perfect tag team, obviously, for many reasons. So I guess I'll go there because it's just the easiest route. You know, you could sit there and say Kairi Sane and Asuka, but that seems a bit racist. So I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. Let's see. I'm just kind of doing this off the top of my head here, but does it have to be people who are currently in the company?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Because I'm kind of down with this new Sarah Logan gimmick that they got. Crazy Mary Dobson kind of being the hillbilly, you know, chick from the backwoods that they got going on. And
I mean, she's currently in the company, so I'm not sure why you preface this.
Well, because the person I would team her with is ODB. I think that would be a great match.
Yes, very much so.
For a great team. Obviously, the Iconic Girls right up there too. They're already a team, but I would definitely put them together. Let's see who else. Top of my head. This is. Do you have any in mind in your head, Troy?
Kairi Sane and Bayley. So we could do a double elbow drop as a finisher.
That's interesting. I would do Bayley and maybe Dakota Kai from the Mae Young Classic because they both have sort of that, you know, innocent look going on. Like they would appeal to that younger crowd.
Or team her up with Evie. who actually was recently signed as well.
I think that is Dakota Kai. Isn't that the name? I think that's the name.
Oh, that might be, yeah. Okay, then we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of all the ones that they renamed.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, it would require one of them to do a heel turn, but I think that Nikki Storm and Ruby Riott would be a really good team. They're both kind of cut from the same cloth in terms of kind of craziness. Otherwise, I mean...
I think Rachel Evers and, what's her name? Tessa Blanchard would make a nice team. Both kind of...
Like a new...
What's that?
I think you have them be led by Charlotte and have a new evolution. Female evolution.
Yeah, you could do that too. That would work. Yeah. But they also have the second generation thing they could tie in together. I think that would make for a good team. Anybody teaming with Toni Storm, I'd be happy because she's my new favorite. And she was on the Mae Young Classic final, so I'm hoping that's an indication that they have signed her because that would make me very happy.
It does seem, I think the Cruiserweight finals as well, other than Kota Ibushi, they had pretty much signed most of those people at that point too. So. Well,
actually, 2 of the final 4 they didn't because Sabre Jr. was in the final 2.
Oh, well, I'm talking about like the other preliminary matches on there. Not the actual tournament stuff, but the other matches that were included on there. There was Drew Gulak was on there, guys like that. So.
Yeah, that was the other thing that surprised me a little bit with the Mae Young Classic final was that there was just that match. So it's just the final. No other matches. Usually there's like a showcase match of some people who were eliminated early on. And just maybe because it was following SmackDown, they wanted to keep the crowd as hot as possible. They went right into it, but I found it a little weird that there was no buffer there.
Right.
Just Vince McMahon getting his ass kicked right into the ladies.
Yep, pretty much.
A little strange. But if you have any suggestions for women you'd like to see in a tag team, and we're talking only about wrestling, guys, because I know how some of you are, please feel free to send it to rundownwrestling@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to read them on the show.
Right on. I do know that Jazzy Gabbert has now been signed on to WWE, so I'm very happy about that.
Cool.
As well as, looks like, well, we knew Nixon Noel, but she's injured.
Yeah.
And
Piper
Casey
Catanzaro,
Casey Catanzaro, sorry, has also been recently signed.
Yes, reality show.
Yeah, I think that's all that I can see here right now. But obviously, we might be seeing some of them coming up here very soon.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. I guess with that, we'll head on over to the Indie Wrestling Corner with a mic smash. All right. If you have a independent wrestling promotion that you would like talked about on the Rundown Wrestling podcast here, please email the show, rundownwrestling@gmail.com, and we will try to get your plugs in. If you are in the Wisconsin area this Friday at the Columbus Club of West Allis, Brew City Wrestling presents Fall Frenzy. Bell time is 7:30. Doors open at 6:45. Tickets are $20 reserved front row, $18 general admission at the door, and $16 pre-sale on BrewCityWrestling1.com. Tickets are on sale only until Friday at 1 p.m., so make sure that you get on there as soon as you can. This show, I know, is going up on Thursday, so make sure that if you're listening to it, that you get on there and get your tickets now. After the show, you can join the Brew City Wrestling Stars at the Slurp and Burp Funhouse. We will have a meet and greet with the franchise Shane Douglas from 6:30 until 7 p.m. The cost is $10, plus his merchandise fees. Shane Douglas, I don't know how much he charges for merchandise. It's probably too much. Tickets for meet and greet can be purchased when you arrive, though. Already booked. The Brew City Wrestling Women's Champion, Evil Sierra, defends her championship belt against Tess Valentine. The Brew City Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship is on the line as Max Holiday takes on Tokyo Monsta Kahagas. He is a member of Heathen. Brew City Wrestling Tag Team Championship is also on the line as Hardcore Impact defend the belts against Jason's favorite tag team, the N-Words. Also booked, the Golden Goddess Lena D'Oro will take on Blue Phoenix Vanessa Azur. And High Octane Onyx Andretti takes on AC Riley. And the main event, it's franchise versus franchise, as the franchise Shane Douglas takes on the BCW franchise Evil Dis. For more information, head on over to Twitter at BCW Fandemonium or at BCW1, or go to the website BruceCityWrestling1.com, or find them on Facebook.
And want to send a big shout out to our boy up there, the fabled one, Aesop Mitchell, who recently captured his first singles championship in the Wisconsin area. So congratulations to Aesop, former guest of the Rundown Sit Down. And Sit Down on a current bit of a hiatus, which we'll hopefully be getting back to it soon. Just scheduling and real life have made it difficult to find the time to schedule stuff, but I'm going to work on it, and hopefully we'll be back sooner rather than later. But certainly by the time I'm done coaching Little League this fall, we'll hopefully get some stuff back up there. But speaking of getting stuff back in action,
I enjoy the fact that Adam's contribution is 2 lines. Go ahead.
Atlantic Pro Wrestling returns with another great night of wrestling action on Saturday night, September 30th, with a 6:30 p.m. bell time at the Boys and Girls Club of Lower Merrimack Valley in Salisbury, Massachusetts. The main event, the Gil Bonk Invitational 20-man Wrestle Royal. 2 participants start every 90 seconds. Another competitor enters the ring. Eliminations happen via pinfall, submission, or tossing someone over the top rope and both feet hitting the floor. The first 10 entries have been announced, and in no particular order there will be a random draw that night. We have Dynamite Danny Miles, Robo the Punjabi Lion, the Unequaled One Todd Sopel, the Hampton Beach Bad Boy Hunter Ward, the Canadian Legend Matt Loudon, the Sheik Abdullah Hassan, the Concept Johnny Torres, Big Gun Jim Sargent, and both members of the Main State Posse Danger Kid and Aiden Agro. Once again, that is Atlantic Pro Wrestling, Saturday night, September 30th at a 6:30 p.m. bell time in Salisbury, Massachusetts. For more information, search for Atlantic Pro Wrestling on Facebook. And if you're up in that same area, I would encourage you to go visit our friends at Lucky Pro Wrestling, as they also present Fall Frenzy, Saturday, October 14th from the Elks Hall in Clinton, Massachusetts. For the first time ever, the LPW tag titles on the line in a last team standing match, as the Aristocrats, Tomahawk, and Zachary Pierre-Ballou defend against the Heavy Hitters. This is the Hitters' last chance to capture the gold in LPW. If they lose, they never get another shot at the title. The Riot, Kellen Thomas, will take on Big Jim Anderson. Also, Big Brick Mastone will be defending the Hard Knocks Championship against Cam Zagami, and the return of the fan favorite Halloween Battle Royal. Also, Davian will defend the LPW Women's Championship in a 4-way dance against Delmi Exo, Adira, and Isana. Tyler Nitro will take on Machado, accompanied by Taylor Hendricks, in a National Pro Wrestling League showcase match. Liberty States Wrestling will return to the John McCarthy Elementary School on Saturday, October 21st. No matches yet announced, but keep an eye out to their Facebook event page. And, of course, you can continue to check for details here on the Rundown. And just added to my schedule, November 22nd, UFO Wrestling presents their pre-Thanksgiving tradition, Harvest Havoc. Once again, we return to the Tynan Community Center in East Boston, Massachusetts. And that is once again Wednesday, November 22nd, with a bell time of 7 p.m. No scheduled matches official yet, but we do have the first entrant to the Turkey Rumble will be Channing Thomas, who is a previous winner of that event. The Cool People will defend the UFO Wrestling Tag Team Championship for the first time since winning it. The Kingpin Brian Malonis will be in the house to defend the UFO Heavyweight Championship. The Castle Island Assassin will be there, and Sully Banger in the house. So definitely want to check that out. UFO Wrestling. You're in town to visit friends and go to family dinner on Thanksgiving. You're looking for something to do the night before. I encourage you. Visit us at the Tynan Community Center Wednesday, November 22nd, 7 p.m. for UFO Wrestling's Harvest Havoc.
Liberty States returns to John McCarthy Elementary 2 days before my birthday.
Oh, well, there you go.
If you'd like to send me some birthday stuff, hit me up on Twitter at Rockstar Troy. And that does it for this.
Or at least send him some nudes, you know?
Yes. Dick pics are welcome as well. That does it for the rundown for this Wednesday,
Especially
September
if you're
3rd,
Seth Rollins.
2017. It has been 73 days since Sierra won the GFW Knockouts Championship. And it'll probably be another 73 days until GFW goes up. Yes.
You get Bruce City Wrestling on the brain. It's actually Sienna that won the GFW Women's Championship.
Is it really? Why'd I write that?
I think you have Sierra on the brain. You and Smathers.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I always have Sierra on the brain. Yes, Sienna It doesn't matter anyways, because that it's not a real championship.
Wait, you're saying Sierra's championship is not a real championship?
I'm saying Sierra's championship is a real championship. I've seen it. I'm saying Sienna's championship's not a real championship because it's not a real company.
But it's 2 championships in one.
I guess. I mean, is it though now? Like, what happens when GFW gets kicked out of Impact? Does she go with it, or does she just revert back to the Impact Knockouts, which is a weird term, championship?
It's not any worse than the Raw Women Champions.
That is true. The Raw Dog Women's Champion. Speaking of things getting raw, my fingers get really raw when I try to flip through books, and it's not great, man. So what I like to do, because I don't like to use my brain all that much, is I like to listen to books. And you can do that as well by heading over to audibletrial.com/rundown for a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial. As we said before, if you want to interact with the show now that we shut down the Smathers Lounge due to a rat infestation, follow us on Twitter at Rundown Podcast.
Email the show. Hepatitis outbreak.
Email the show rundownwrestling@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail like Sal did, 617-863-6967. That's 61 rundown 7. Yes, as soon as I figure out how to actually change the greeting, I will probably eventually do it. You can head on over to youtube.com/rundown podcast to look at all of our ugly mugs and old episodes, but you can't on this one, motherfuckers. Or head on over to facebook.com/rundown wrestling.
I am going to attempt to post the audio file on the YouTube page. I don't know how well that's going to go, but if that's been your medium for consuming the show in the past, I'm going to hope to try to figure out how to make that happen still.
There you go. You know something, Jason?
What's that?
I've had some problems lately. Some problems in the bathroom.
Oh, Jesus. I can relate. I think everybody can relate to that, Troy. We've all been there. But you know what? I happen to know of a very special cure for that exact problem.
What's that?
Well,
I thought you were going to keep going. Sorry.
well, this fucking back and forth doesn't work if you stop going back at me. I would direct you to go to tinyurl.com/distant horizons and order yourself a copy of Chasing Distant Horizons, because you will not only be chasing those distant horizons, but the poop will be chasing itself right out of your turd cutter before you know it.
There we go. That sounds fantastic. And while you're sitting there in one hand reading Chasing Distant Horizons, in the other hand on your phone, you can be heading on over to shadowvein.net.
Or if the author of Chasing Distant Horizons is willing to send Troy a copy, you could even listen to Chasing Distant Horizons on your Audible free trial while you are trying to take a shit.
Yeah.
See, we tied everything together in one nice, neat little package there.
And he will never hear it. The Rundown Wrestling Podcast is a member of the Questionable Endeavor Network. You can head on over to questnnetwork.com or at Questen Network on Twitter, or check out the other Questen Network shows that we have: Tuning Japanese, the Raw Attitude Podcast, the Slasher Sanitarium, which I do intend to revive as soon as I can find some time to breathe, Pone Stars, New Blood Rising, and the Words of Geekdom. All of those are available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Raw Attitude Podcast is on SoundCloud, although they're almost out of business, so maybe, get an iPhone.
And, of course, we want to also encourage everyone to check out the other shows on the Rundown feed, including Troy's NXT Revisited series. I mentioned the Rundown Sit-Downs, hopefully returning soon. We have Adam's Nitromania podcast, and just debuting this week, and I know this because I helped produce it, WrestleMania Salvation, WrestleMania 1, as seen through the eyes of Rundown co-host Sal.
Co-host is a strong term.
Occasional co-host.
Yeah.
Infrequent co-host.
There you go. Make sure to check all those out. Yes, probably not going to be an NXT Revisited this week because of the fact that we're recording the show on Wednesday.
Because of the
and
hurricane.
I don't have it because of the hurricane. Yep. I'm just going to say. Yep. No, there's nothing because of the hurricane. Other than that, check out our Discord channel. There's just a random K underneath that. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
Go ahead and listen to our friends Brian Malonis and Mike Crockett on the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing. You can find them facebook.com/thewpan or wherever you consume your podcasts. If you haven't already, and I don't know why you wouldn't because you're listening to this on your phone, you're not watching this on YouTube, search for us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, or Podomatic under the Rundown Wrestling Podcast. And with that, thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to Jason.
Thank you, Troy.
Thanks to Ray Williams for the logo. And thanks again to Jason for our new theme song.
And thanks to nobody for watching us on YouTube, which allows us to do the show this way. It's much easier to put together.
That's right. That's right. Next week, we bring you No Mercy predictions.
And if we have 3 hosts, maybe we can play a game.
If we can get 3 hosts.
It's always tricky.
What is going on with my thing? Okay. All right.
That's what Miz said, too. Next thing he knew, Maurice was pregnant.
That's true. That is true. That is true. All right. Thanks again for listening. Tune in yet again to this feed for the next episode of the Ronda Wrestling Podcast.
See you next Thursday, but not live, only on the podcasting app because that's Thursday at like 12:05. So it's on that border of Thursday and Friday, but see you next Friday doesn't have the same connotation. So
that's true.
I'll just say see you next Thursday.
It counts, and because it counts, it cunts. See ya.